What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Welcome back to the Beer Barn, and today I've got a pretty cool video for you guys. So today we're going to be talking about my top baits for 2021. And as I went back and I looked through videos and I looked through Instagram posts and I just kind of looked back into the logbook of this year to help kind of pick out my top baits for 2021, it really made me kind of stop and just be grateful for everything that's happened this year, because it has been an insane year. And so I want to just express gratitude to you guys. I want to express gratitude to your support to this channel and helping this community grow, gratitude in your support to different causes that we helped give to and just really fulfill giving opportunities through the live stream and all the fundraising that we did this year. I also just want to express gratitude to all the messages and concern with Dad and his journey and his battle with cancer, which he is winning right now. And I just want to express gratitude to just the blessing that YouTube has been. As just crazy as it is and frustrating as it can be sometimes, YouTube and the opportunities that have arisen from my content creation and the work that I put into it on YouTube has been absolutely insane. And it's only possible because you guys watch the content, like the content, share the content, and have invested into Alex Rudd and into the Alex Rudd fishing community like you guys have. And so that's what I want to start off this video with, is just an expression of gratitude to you guys for what you guys have given to me and just how awesome this year actually has turned out to be. Because, in about February, March, when Dad got diagnosed with cancer, I really didn't know how good the year would have turned out to be. And it's turned out to be a really good year. And so I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank God. And I just want to express gratitude to everything that has gone on this year. But enough being sappy, enough being emotional. We've got that out of the way. So let's get into this list and start talking about my top baits for 2021. Now, normally I would have some sort of order to go through, kind of starting at the beginning of the year and going season by season or month by month. But honestly, the top three baits that I'm going to talk about here, or my first three baits I'm going to talk about here, really were consistent for me all year long. And so we're just going to kind of go through the baits, and I'll show fish catches and bring up specific memories that I have about each bait as we go through them. So the first bait, and this is actually the bait that I caught my first fish of the year on, is going to be a jerkbait. A jerkbait was such a consistent bait for me all year long. It's really fascinating going back and looking at jerkbait fishing for me this year. Whether I was here in Tennessee, up in Michigan, out in Oklahoma, wherever I went, I took a jerkbait with me, and I seemed to get bites, and I seemed to get really specific key bites. Those bigger than average bites all came on the jerkbait this year, and I just had a ton of fun fishing it. The first fish of the year actually came on this jerkbait. This is the KVD deep diving jerkbait. This is the bigger 3-hook version. And really, this bait, late winter, early spring for me, was super consistent. The fish around me, especially in the Highland reservoirs, were keyed into that little bit bigger, a little bit taller, a little bit broader bait. And so that KVD deep diver really helped to kind of fill that niche that it needed to fill as far as that bite went, and ended up catching a bunch of fish on this thing during that time frame. Ended up catching my first fish of the year on this thing actually when my foot was still broken, which is pretty funny. I was sitting in the back of the boat with my foot propped up, catching fish on this jerkbait, and just had a ton of fun doing that. The next one is the Vision 110+1. Earlier this year, especially in my first few kayak tournaments of the year, this thing just seemed to play huge for me, and it normally does. I mean, you don't really talk about jerkbait fishing around Alex Rowe without bringing up the Vision 110+1, and so it was a bait that was super consistent. It seemed as we rolled off later into the spring, and we kind of had those cold fronts that we normally have during that time frame. That like February, March time frame, we'll have those random cold fronts that'll drop the water temperatures and drop surface temperatures and drop air temperatures, and it really jacks the fish up. This Vision 110+1 in these more translucent colors like this one right here seemed to be the bait that consistently would get bit for me, even though water temperatures weren't peaking out, but in like the low 40s, high 30s. I could still tie this thing on and go get bites. And then the last one that I really didn't get until late summer going on into the fall is the Berkley Stunna 112+1. Had some really good memories around this thing because me and Mr. Benjamin Nowak got to actually get our hands on these things early, do a little testing and a little fishing with this thing and make some content around this thing late summer, right around when Hank Cherry ended up winning the Classic. And me and Ben both caught some really big fish up in Michigan on this thing. And my biggest fish of the trip actually came on this bait, and then took it out to Oklahoma and caught some big key fish on it out there as well, and just had a really good time, and it's still having a really good time fishing this thing. And I got a feeling that this is going to be a jerkbait for me that is going to play pretty much the rest of the year on into next year, and it's just going to be a jerkbait that I've always got tied on and ready to go. But the jerkbait was huge for me this year. Consistent all throughout the year, bunch of big fish on it. When it seemed that they didn't want to bite anything else, I could tie on the jerkbait and I could go get bites on it. Now the next bait, again, consistent for me all throughout the year. A bait that I'm very proud of because it's a bait that I helped design, and that is the Monster Bass Hammerhead 1.5 Alex Rudd Fishing Signature Edition. We actually came out with this bait this year. Super proud when it released. A bait that I've caught a ton of fish on. Obviously a 1.5 size crankbait is something I have a ton of confidence in, and so when these things came out, I was just super excited to get out, go fishing with them, and for you guys to get them in your hands, in which a lot of you guys did, and a lot of you guys gained confidence in a crankbait because of this crankbait. And that was kind of our point and our hope with the bait, is to be able to bring you guys some cool colors, some exclusive colors, and some kind of exclusive design attributes to make this thing awesome. And that is what we did. And for me, it was, again, consistent all year long. Early in the spring, the two colors that got the most work done were Rudd Red and Juice Craw. Both of these I specifically designed for spring fishing. And, you know, that's when they really seem to play the biggest. Obviously, they'll work in fall fishing as well, and it's a bait that I would have tied on during fall as well. But these colors specifically were kind of designed for spring fishing. You know, obviously that Rudd Red in that little bit dirtier, more riverine style lakes, and then that Juice Craw for those a little bit clearer ponds and reservoirs that a lot of us fish here in East Tennessee. And both of these got work done. And then as I went on into late summer, early fall, usually when it gets really hard for me to catch fish, one that I designed for that time of year, and I designed to look like a shad and to do a really good job mimicking a shad, is Magic Shad. And it is a color that I caught a ton of fish on during that transitional time. Again, normally a time of year when I don't catch a ton of fish, I was able to tie Magic Shad on it and to go catch a bunch of fish. And so just great opportunity there. Again, that gratitude thing I was talking about earlier. Just grateful to Monster Bass, grateful to you guys for buying the crankbait, grateful to Zach Messer Baits for helping me to come up with those colors and to get those colors painted, kind of bring my ideas to life. We got 4 more colors are coming out very, very soon. A really cool movie that Mr. Samuel Moore made about those baits. And so just super excited to see where the Alex Rudd Fishing Signature crankbait goes, but had a great year with it, and it couldn't not make the list because of how consistent that bait was for me as well. Now this is a bait that was so consistent for me, and it was a bait that I made so many memories around. I got to do some of the coolest stuff with it, catch some of the coolest fish with it, and just make a memory around the fact that I kind of figured out how to fish a bait in a way that fit my style and helped me to put a bunch of fish into the boat. And that is going to be the Ned Rig, and more specifically that is going to be the Strike King Ned Ocho, and even more specifically it's going to be in 2 colors, and that is Moon Juice and Morning Dawn, with the tail dipped in just a little bit of chartreuse. I know you guys heard me say that so many times this year, and that's because it just played big for me this year. Early in the spring, late in the winter, on throughout the summer. You know, the whole early spring bite was awesome. A lot of that dam discharge fishing, a lot of that current fishing, kind of figured out that bite, caught some big key fish doing that. But then when we got into late summer and I found those fish that were spawning below a lot of those dams, a lot of those dam discharges where that cool water was, you know, we're talking June, July, I was able to take that Ned Rig and go catch some really big key fish, whether it just be fun fishing or in a kayak tournament. I was catching them on a Ned Rig, 3/16 ounce head with that Ned Ocho on the back. And the 2 colors, again, Moon Juice and Morning Dawn with the tip dyed in just a little bit of chartreuse, was just so consistent for me. And it's a bait now that I have so much confidence in. You know, I figured the Ned Rig out this year, and I just am really kind of like grateful to the fact that I had a lot of time on the water to figure out the Ned Rig, which I did, and I was just able to put some big fish into the boat with that thing. And so that bait right there specifically, that specific plastic on a 3/16 ounce head in those two specific colors really helped me to kind of flush out Ned Rig fishing for myself, and really helped me to gain a confidence in a technique that I normally wouldn't have a ton of confidence in. Now, the next bait on this list is going to kind of start getting us into summer now. You know, this is really, once I got off work from teaching and really got into the summer and got back home from Michigan, these baits seem to play huge for me and help me to catch a bunch of fish. The first one is going to be the Beast Coast Little Magnum. When I got back from Michigan, Derek sent these things to me, pre-production models, and I went out and cracked a 20-pound bag literally the first day that I had it, throwing that Beast Coast Little Magnum in Stealth Pumpkin, pairing it up with a Power Baits Chicker Craw on the back, and then from then on out, I literally never cut this combination off right here. I threw this thing almost every lake that I went to, flipped it almost every lake that I went to, and just absolutely hammered their ass using this jig and trailer combination this year, and fell in love with the Little Magnum. I mean, this little jig from Beast Coast is just knocked down, knock out of the park, home run. I mean, this is like just such a good bait. You know, you get that tungsten weight forward head design with this thing. It makes it drop really fast, makes it act a lot like, almost like a Texas rig plastic or a flipping bait. You got that custom 4/0 C-wash hook in there. Actually, this is a BKK hook. It's a 4/0 BKK flipping hook in that thing. You get that really good bait keeper, that really good weed guard, and I mean, guys, you saw it. I mean, you saw it went down. You saw all the fish that I caught on this thing this year. I caught a bunch of big fish, I caught a bunch of fish, I caught some key fish, and they all came on that Beast Coast Little Magnum paired up with that 3-inch Chicker Craw, and just had so much fun throwing that bait this year, both in the 1/2 ounce and the 3/8 ounce version. But 90% of the time I was throwing a 1/2 ounce Stealth Pumpkin Beast Coast Little Magnum paired up with a Chicker Craw in Pumpkin Green Flake, and just put in work with that combination right there, and just had a ton of fun throwing it. The next two baits are going to be no surprise to you guys. Again, summertime baits, baits that I had some big key fish on in kayak tournaments, big key fish on, you know, just in the boat and doing fun fishing and all that kind of stuff. But both of those are Max Scent baits, and that is the Max Scent General and the Max Scent Creature Hog. These two baits right here in unison, they kind of played together. You know, I would either throw that Wacky Rig General and or flip that Creature Hog, put a bunch of big fish into the boat for me. And it was one of those things that, like, I can't tell you how many times that both of these baits kind of saved the day for me. You know, there would be days that I was struggling in kayak tournaments or struggling on the water, that I would pick up one of these two things and go throw it where I knew I needed to throw it, and I would get some really big bites. And I really started to believe more in Max Scent this year than I ever had before. And a lot of it had to do with these two baits and just the consistency of bites and my ability to go get bites and fish behind people and fish around people, and literally at one point be fishing right behind somebody with that Creature Hog and put fish into the boat. It really started to show me the power of Max Scent, and it kind of gave me confidence, more confidence than I had in these baits. But the two colors in both that I had the most consistency on was, this one is Green Pumpkin Purple Flake in the Creature Hog, and then South African Special in the Creature Hog. Both of these caught a ton of fish on them this year, especially flipping right after the post spawn. It seemed to just pop off with this thing, and it was really the only thing that I could seem to get a ton of bites on were these two baits. And then as we went, you know, on into the post spawn, obviously Max Scent General in black and blue, and then in June Bug were the two colors that seemed to get the most bites for me, wacky rigging this thing. But both of those Max Scent offerings were ones that I had tied on, ready to go, caught a ton of fish on it, really kind of fleshed out my belief in Max Scent. It really made me kind of see Max Scent in the light that it is, of something that really needs to be in everybody's boat and that you need to be using. I do want to talk about the hook that I was using, because I was using two different hooks I believe I have them both here. While I was flipping that creature hog, one hook is the 6 cents flipping hook, and the other one is the Berkley Fusion flipping hook. Both of those hooks are hooks that I used this year, had a ton of confidence in. I like both of these hooks because they had a little bit wider gap in the bottom of the hook. You know, a lot of flipping hooks that I see, this gap right here is just way too narrow. But both that Berkley Fusion and that 6 cents hook had a big wide gap, had a lot of travel, had a lot of bite, and so you could sink that hook into that creature hog, make it super weedless. But when you set the hook on them, you're going to make sure and get a hook into them and get them into the boat. So just really important on that hook there, and I'll make sure and link those down below. Now the next one is going to be of no surprise to anybody that watches the channel, and that is the frog, and more specifically the Spro Bronzeye 65, and even more specifically the Spro Bronzeye 65 in Freak. This thing, whether I was in Michigan or I was down here at the house, played big, put a bunch of fish in the boat. I have a ton of confidence in this bait. I mean, I don't really know what more needs to be said about just the fish catching ability of this frog in this color and how many fish that I've caught on it. I mean, if you've been around the channel for any amount of time, you guys know when Alex Rudd talks about frog fishing, he talks about the Bronzeye Spro 65, and he talks about it in the Freak color. And again, just caught so many fish on it. That day that I had in Michigan with Mr. Ben out there fishing those reeds on the big water, it was just one of the most insane days of frog fishing that I've ever had. And I can thank this little frog right here for every bit of the work that it put in. So now these last couple baits are going to be baits that I got tied on right now. These are the baits that are going to do work all throughout the month of December for me. They usually do work throughout December into January for me, and are going to probably take me through the end of the year, into the new year, and just keep on catching fish. The first one is going to be the Berkley Fritz side. This is the number 5 size, both in the normal version and the biggin version. This is number 5 size. The normal version got a lot of work for me, done for me last year at the end of the year. You know, January, February time frame, really put some key fish into the boat for me in a couple kayak tournaments that I fished in, and really is just an awesome little small body flat side profile. And you really can't find a small body flat side profile like this that has the castability that this thing does and comes stocked with really good hooks without getting into some kind of balsa baits that can be really, really expensive. And so I bought a bunch of these before I even worked with Berkley and Abu last year, but just because it was an offering that allowed me to fish that smaller flat side profile without having to spend $25 a bait, and then be able to cast it really, really well on normal casting gear. And then another one is the number 5 size Berkley Fritz side, but in the biggin size. And you know, Berkley sent me these this year to try out and to use, and man, this thing freaking catches them. Goes just a little bit deeper than that original number 5 size, and so you can really fish this thing in like that 6 to 8 foot of water. And in the river this year, this thing has been absolutely phenomenal, especially fishing over some of those, you know, like lay downs and those little bit deeper lay downs. I've got some really key bites in a couple kayak tournaments this year fishing that number 5 size biggin. And now the last bait is a bait that you guys are not going to be surprised about at all. It's already made its debut this year as far as late fall, winter fishing, and that is going to be the Spro Rock Crawler. And honestly, that Spro Rock Crawler is going to be a bait that I've got tied on all throughout December, all throughout the new year, all throughout the spring, and it always catches fish. And it's one that I didn't mention at the beginning of the video because I was going to mention it here. I mean, this guy always plays. It always catches fish. It is such an immense confidence bait for me, and it is one that, I mean, I can't not mention my top baits of the year without bringing up the Spro Rock Crawler, it seems like, for the past about 3 or 4 years. Spro Rock Crawler is just such a phenomenal bait. But guys, that's it. That's my top baits for 2021. I mean, a heck of a list to say the least, a hell of a year to say the least. And again, I just want to express my gratitude to you guys. Make sure if you got any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comment section down below. Go hit up the description. I'll have everything that I talked about linked down below so you guys can go check it out. And as always, you guys are sweet, and thank you for watching.